The in-game air traffic control in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 is a mess, so you're looking for some added realism, and someone on Reddit maybe recommended you to try VATSIM, but goddamn, it looks scary. I mean, you have to actually talk to people. What if you mess up what you're saying? How to even begin? And should you really be flying that big jet on your first flight on the network? Welcome to Pilot, where I share my passion for virtual aviation with you. You can expect weekly videos about Microsoft Flight Simulator news, aircraft reviews, and tutorials from this channel like this one, starting with the question, how to actually start on VATSIM. Now, you really don't need much. You will have to download vPilot for Microsoft Flight Simulator and install it. I'll leave a link to that in the description. And after that's done, you will have to make an account. I'll leave a link to that too. And then the last thing you need is to complete your beginner test. Now, don't stress over it too much, but it's worth to read through the material that they provide. It will be covering the basics of VATSIM, how to choose a call sign, how ATC works on VATSIM, the general rules, and your very basic flight knowledge. So first step, loading your first flight, and the first question is, which airport do you actually want to load into? Now you can open up the map of VATSIM at map.vatsim.net and select ATC sign below once it loads. So now you want to find an airport that's not busy, but it is covered by ATC. So I recommend you fly in the middle of the day because peak time is usually around 6 to 10 p.m. local time. And check to see if they have a T on, I'll show it on screen, meaning they have tower control, because that's all we'll be needing today. So now open up Microsoft Flight Simulator and find that airport in the game. And remember the first rule of VATSIM, do not load in on the runway. So select the parking spot. We'll be selecting one of the general aviation parking ramps since we're flying a general aviation aircraft, and then selecting real weather, real time. Now, it is possible to use custom weather and custom time, but you will have to let the controllers know. And again, it depends on where you fly and how you fly. Some events do not let you do that, but again, generally speaking, it is possible. So once that's done, select the plane you know how to fly, or just follow me in the basic bonanza. Now first, before we actually fly, get into the settings and turn off all AI traffic and turn off the volume of the in-game ATC. And once you join the network, you will see models of each players, and you'll be using VATSIM for ATC anyway. At this point, you do need a call sign, and you can read through the documentation on the website. So we'll be going with what you see on the screen now: Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie. Hotel Alpha is for Hungary, and 1 Mike Charlie because that's usually what I use in every single game. It's a shortening for one more coffee, which is usually my username on every single game. And in number 3, we arrive in the game and we're ready to fly. This part will depend on what you're flying, but it is now time to turn on the aircraft. And if you're flying a small general aviation plane, you can turn on the engine too, since we don't have a ground power unit for external power. For jets, you will have to request a push and start, which we won't be covering today. So make sure your parking brake is set, get the engine running, and turn on the avionics. Again, power is required for the avionics. The battery will die pretty quick in your airplane if there is no GPU available. So with the avionics on, we're ready to join the network, and if this is your first time, you will need to configure the vPilot client. So do that, fill out your name, your home airport, which doesn't really matter, just choose one, your VATSIM ID, and your password. Then you will need to assign a key or a joystick button, which I would recommend you, to the push to talk trigger. This is what you'll be using as the transmit button to communicate. You can actually bind the same button on Discord to push to mute, which is very nice if you're hanging out with friends there, or if you're gonna do group flights with us. This is something that we require. Also, if you're having hard time understanding comms, you might want to check this box, which is the disable realistic ATC audio effects. There's a similar option in IVAO too, and this will turn off the distortion effects, and you'll hear the controllers and pilots like you're in a Discord chat with them, let's say, so without the distortion. So check your mic and your output, and then let's go. So we're ready to make our first call, but who do we actually call up first? Now, in order to understand who to call up first, you will have to know the hierarchy of VATSIM and IVAO for the same time, and of the controllers. So this is covered in the basics training, but I'll quickly go over it. So you'll basically have delivery, ground, tower, and above those are approach controllers, sensors, radars, etc. But today we'll really only be needing the first 3, and chances are you won't actually find an airport, or not a lot of airport, with all of these roles filled, or if you do, then it's gonna be a super busy one. So that's why I recommended you to find one with tower online, because the way VATSIM works is that every controller will do the job of those below him if they're not online. So ground control will do ground and delivery if delivery is not online, tower will do ground and delivery if they're not online, and so on and so forth. So if you cannot find the tower online for this reason, you can actually load into any airport covered by approach controllers, but do expect traffic. Usually approach controllers don't just hang out alone. So open up your vPilot client and check the frequency of the controller you'll be calling up first, and put that into your COM1 frequency. And here's your first call. You'll see airport delivery or ground or tower, your call sign, so Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie for me, at parking/stand/ramp number X, requesting VFR clearance for traffic pattern work with information Y. Now, if this is something that's too scary, you can begin on an uncontrolled airport using Unicom, which is what you'd most likely be doing in real life actually. And in that case, it's a little bit different because you don't have to talk to anyone, but you have to announce everything you do, including taxiing to the runway, taxiing off the runway, turning to crosswind, downwind, base and final leg. But if you talk to ATC, you'll most likely get something like a call sign back, which is obviously to say that it is for you. You're gonna be cleared for the VFR pattern work, you'll get a squawk number, and you'll get some extra info, maybe not all the time, that you have to follow, and you'll probably hear something like advisement ready to taxi. So the squawk number, we wanna put it into our transponder, terminal altitude or Charlie mode, and then we can taxi. For taxi instructions, you will have to call up the taxiing controller, which in this case would be a ground, or if you only have tower, then obviously you still talk to the tower, you don't need to switch frequency. If you do, obviously look up the frequency of it. So you'll say controller, call sign, ready to taxi, which in my case would be Budapest ground, Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, ready for taxi. And then you'll hear something along the lines of taxi to runway, whichever the active runway is, via X, Y, and Z to holding point A. So this is how it looks like in the game.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, Budapest Tower, szép estét. Requesting VFR traffic pattern work with the information echo on board. I'm currently on gate 151.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, you are cleared for VFR traffic pattern out of runway 31 left. After departure, join left-hand traffic pattern and climb not above 2,000 feet by QNH 1011 and squawk 7024.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, clear for traffic pattern work on runway 31 left for left-hand traffic pattern and squawking 7024 not above 2,000 feet.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, readback is correct. Report when ready for engine startup and taxi.
Hotel Alpha Mike Charlie, ready for taxi.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, taxi to holding point Bravo 1, runway 31 left via Golf and Bravo 1.
Runway 31 left, Bravo 1 via Golf and Bravo 1. Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie.
Now we just need to actually taxi down, so let's get the aircraft moving, let's taxi down, and let's get to that holding point. Once we're at the holding point, this is one of the points where you need to switch along without being told to tower frequency. Again, if you've been talking to tower, you'll obviously stay there, but if you've been talking to delivery and ground, then now you'll be switching over to tower frequency because tower controls the runways. So for example, if you need to cross a runway to continue your taxi, then you need to stop, call up tower, get a permission to cross, and then get back to ground. That being said, you should really never switch frequencies without being told so, but this is an exception. So now we're ready to take off, so we're gonna call controller, this time the tower for sure, and we're gonna say controller, call sign at holding point XYZ, or you can say requesting takeoff clearance from runway XYZ. Now, obviously here your experience may vary a lot depending on the type of clearance you had and what airport you're flying out of and local customs and all that sort of stuff, but here are some stuff that you will encounter quite a lot. First of all, you can get something like a line up and wait. This just means go onto the runway, but don't take off right away. You'll get cleared for takeoff, which is to get on the track and take off. You'll get cleared for immediate takeoff, which is get on the track and take off immediately. You get after arriving traffic, line up and wait, which means that there is a plane coming. Once it's down and in front of you, you can get on there and wait for the clearance to take off. And sometimes, rarely, you'll get backtrack and wait. You're not really likely to get this again, but this just really only means go on the runway, go back to all the way to the beginning, turn around, and then I can get you to take off. Again, you will need to get your actual takeoff clearance as well. Please note that if you're not sure where to go, you can always ask ATC to help you. Let them know that you're a newbie, and if it's not a busy airport, you can even request usually progressive taxi, which means you'll get directions at basically every turn of the taxiing phase.
Budapest Tower, Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie on holding point Bravo 1.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie Roger, wind is 29 degrees 2 knots and runway 31 left, cleared for immediate departure.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, runway 31 left is cleared for immediate departure.
So we're up in the air, we're flying, and we need to take a look at the traffic pattern that we'll actually be flying. So this is how it looks like, and this is what we'll be flying here. And generally speaking, this is how you actually fly it. So you first fly above 700 feet above the ground in the runway direction. This is called your upwind leg. Then you turn left or right, depending on traffic direction and what you were issued, to your crosswind leg and continue to climb to about 1,000 feet above the ground. And once there, about half to 1 miles out from the runway, you turn again to your downwind and stay at that 1,000 feet, 1,500 depending on what you were issued above the ground elevation. And when you have the runway behind you, like about 45 degrees, then you can start your descent and turn again left or right for the base leg. And once you're getting close to the runway center line, you can turn again for final. You should be about 500 feet or so above the ground at this point. Now, I'm not a complete expert on how to fly, so we're not going to discuss that. If you'd like, I can make another video about flying the traffic pattern itself, but all you're going to do now is that when you're airborne, you can call out each stage and ask for a landing clearance once turning base. This might be different depending what the controller actually tells you. So for example, in this one,
Alpha 1 Mike Budapest Tower, airborne from runway 31 left.
Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, Roger, join left-hand traffic pattern and report on downwind.
Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, joining left-hand traffic pattern, reporting on downwind.
so for example, in this one, you can remember that I've got report downwind, so I don't actually need to talk to them while I'm getting on the crosswind. I only report when I'm on the downwind leg. But if you do call it out, or if you're on Unicom, then what you would do is say, let's say tower, call sign, turning crosswind. Or if you're on Unicom, you'd say airport traffic, call sign, turning crosswind. And then when you're getting close to turning base, you'll need to request a landing clearance pretty soon if you haven't gotten it already. Now this can be either a full stop, meaning you'll be taxiing back to your parking place, or a touch and go, meaning you won't stop but take off again. Now depending on ATC, they might actually ask this before you can ask them, but generally speaking, if you don't get a clearance, what you can do is call them up again and say tower, call sign, requesting landing type. So for example,
What's up, Mike Charlie on downwind runway 31 left, requesting a full stop.
Hotel Alpha 1 Mike Charlie, Roger, full stop landing is approved and report when ready to turn base and final for runway 31 left.
Full stop is approved on runway 31 left, reporting when ready to turn base and final. It's Alpha 1 Mike Charlie.
and then once you're down for a full stop landing, you'll need to exit the runway wherever you're able to and where ATC tells you, and you need to read that back. And then once you're off, you can switch to ground, request taxi to general aviation parking. And there's only one thing left to do now. You can subscribe to this channel for more videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next.